Hello and welcome to MLOps Minutes. So it's back to school, we're in great shape, and from now on we're going to recreate our cat, dog and other classification project from scratch and the keystone of any IT project. And also in MLOps, for your model to be reproducible is to version your code, and for that we're going to use Git, and today we're going to initialize a Git repository. Let's go. I'm going to use git bash to be able to use Linux commands, but under Windows. What happens is that now I'm in the directory c://github, and inside it I've got three directories. I'm going to create a new one, which I'll call MLOps Python demo. I'm going to go into MLOps Python demo and create a Python code file. By typing echo init, I'll write print yoho, which I'll inject into a demo.py file. Now, if I do ls, I can see that I have demo.py, and if I cat demo.py, I can see that I've got my Python code. I'm very happy, but for the moment, I've written some code and it's not versioned anywhere. What I can do is create a local database on my PC, a Git database. What I can do is the command git init, I'll put initial -- branch, mine, and then I'm told I've created a local but empty database. If I do a git status, you can see that my file demo.py file, which is not tracked by Git. To have it tracked by Git, you can do a git add, and I'll add the name of my file. Here you are. Now if I do a git status again, you can see that my file is tracked. However, it's still not saved in the Git. It's still not saved in my local database. So what I have to do is make a git commit to save the file and pull m to add a little first commit comment. And now, if I redo a git status, my file is saved in my local database. What's happening is that now it's on my PC only. I'd love to work with my colleagues. What's going to happen is that I'm going to go to GitHub. Here, I'm on my account, and I'm going to create a remote Git database on GitHub. GitHub isn't Git, it's a set of tools, a web interface that lets you use Git. There are competitors to GitHub, such as GitLab. So now I'm going to create a Git repository, MLOps Python demo 1. I create my little database, add nothing at all, no README, no license, nothing. And I create my repository. So there I have a remote Git URL. Now what happens is that I can make a Git remote, add origin, that's what I'm going to call my remote branch to my remote database on GitHub. Here I'm trying to copy and paste. It worked. What happens is that now I can do git remote to list my remote databases. I only have one called origin because Git will allow me to work with lots of remote databases if I want to. So if I do a git log to see the history of my local commits, here I can see that I have a commit that has a certain hash which starts with 9c77, and now if I want to push this commit on this remote branch, it still doesn't exist. I'm going to want to do a git push to push it on my remote branch, and then it's going to say, oh yeah, but I don't know where to push it, because actually Git can have lots of remote databases. So now I'll have to play this command and tell it I want to push on the remote branch called origin my main branch. That's what we'll do. I'll copy and paste. And now we're going to push my commit to the remote database on GitHub. There, perfect. And you can see the little hash here, 9c77. It's perfect. I've got exactly the same commit as locally, and that's great. So now what I could do and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a second space, a third database. I've got one locally, I've got one on GitHub, but I'm going to create a third one, MLOps Python demo do. Here you are. Same thing, I'm not adding any files, I'm leaving it empty. So now I can copy the URL of my remote repository. And now I can add a new remote here, which I'll call Toto. And which I'll connect to demo 2. So here I've added a remote. So if I do git remote, I can see that I have two remotes. So now if I want to push my code naturally, I'll do git push. However, by default, I've connected it to Origin, which is the first database I created on GitHub. So what I'm going to do is just update this command dash dash set upstream Toto so I can push my main branch to Toto. And now what's going to happen is that effectively I'll have pushed my commit with my 9C77 on GitHub. So now I've got a total of 3 databases where I've pushed the identical commit. So that's pretty good. So now you won't do this all the time. You'll do it at initialization. And if your colleagues want to start working on your project, this is another way of initializing, i.e., I'm a colleague. Let's say Arthur. I arrive and copy the URL from the remote repo, and I'll stay in my bash. So now I'm going to go back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a git clone of my remote repository, which is called MLOps Python demo 1, and it clones. So now I can go to MLOps Python demo 1. I'm Arthur and I initialized a local git repository from the remote repository by making a git clone. And that's it. Arthur can work. Thank you and see you soon for more videos.